You drive past that laundromat on the corner probably twice a week and never think about it twice. Lights on at 6 a.m. Lights on at midnight. Nobody behind a counter most of the day. You've probably had the thought everyone has the first time they really look at one of these places. This thing just sits here making money while the owner is somewhere else entirely. Here's the uncomfortable part. That's not passive income. That's a building full of machines quietly bleeding water, gas, and electricity, whether a single customer walks in or not. The lights you see on at midnight aren't a sign of effortless profit. They're a fixed cost, running whether anyone's using the machines or not, every single hour, every single day of the year. So how does anyone actually make money running a laundromat? Let's get into the real number. Getting into this business seriously starts around $200,000. That's the number for a proven, already operating laundromat with real customers and real machines already installed and generating income from day one. Buy a small, older storefront with used equipment, and you can technically get in for closer to $50,000. Build a brand new location from an empty commercial space with fresh plumbing, new electrical, and a full interior build-out, and you're looking at $500,000 or more. Most first-time owners land in the middle, somewhere around $200,000 to $350,000 for an existing, cash-flowing location. And that number isn't arbitrary. Existing laundromats typically sell for 3 to 5 times their annual cash flow, the same way a small apartment building or a car wash gets priced by an investor. You're not just buying machines bolted to a floor. You're buying a stream of coins and card swipes that's already proven, week after week, to show up. Where does that $200,000 actually go? Machines eat the biggest slice, usually 40 to 50% of your total startup cost. A single commercial washer from a brand like Speed Queen or Dexter runs $5,000 to $7,000. Go bigger, the extra-large triple-load machines the serious wash and fold customers need, and you're paying up to $15,000 per unit. Dryers run $6,000 to $10,000 each. A modest 20-machine laundromat, a mix of washers and dryers, can easily represent $150,000 in equipment alone before you've paid a cent of rent. Then there's the card and coin payment system. Companies like CSC ServiceWorks and apps like Sense let customers pay by tap or by phone instead of digging for quarters, and that convenience layer alone can run $2,000 to $7,000 to install properly across a full location. Add folding tables, security cameras, signage, seating, and your opening supply of detergent and fabric softener for resale, and the picture becomes clear. This is not a low-barrier business you back into casually. It's a capital-heavy operation dressed up, from the outside, as a simple one. Now here's where the math actually starts working in your favor, if you've done it right. Say you're running 20 machines. Average out washer and dryer cycles across a full day, and each machine can realistically turn over 8 times. 8 loads, at an average of $6 a cycle between wash and dry. That's $48 per machine, per day. Multiply that by 20 machines, and you're at $960 a day. Run that 7 days a week, and you're clearing roughly $6,700 a week. Extend that across a full month, and you're sitting around $29,000 in monthly revenue. Push utilization a little higher during a strong month. A few more cycles per machine during back-to-school season or after a cold snap, when everyone's washing heavier loads. And that number can climb toward $32,000 or $33,000. That's before you've added a single dollar from wash and fold service, where customers drop off a bag of laundry and you charge by the pound instead of by the machine. Wash and fold, priced around $1.50 to $2 a pound, can add another 30 to 50% on top of your machine revenue, without buying a single extra washer or dryer. Some owners add pickup and delivery on top of that, using an app to schedule routes, turning a coin laundry into something closer to a subscription service for people who simply don't want to think about laundry at all. But revenue was never the number that mattered. What you'd actually take home is the number that decides whether this was worth doing. Start with utilities, because this is the line every new owner underestimates. Water, gas for heating that water, and electricity to run 20 commercial machines typically eat 20 to 30% of your total revenue. On $29,000 a month, that's roughly $7,000 gone before you've touched anything else. Rent for a laundromat-sized retail space, depending on your market, runs $3,000 to $8,000 a month, sometimes climbing to $10,000 in a dense, high-visibility strip mall near a college campus. If you're not staffing the counter yourself around the clock, an attendant for peak hours costs another $2,000 to $6,000 a month. Add insurance, a few $100 monthly set aside for machine maintenance and eventual replacement, and a loan payment if you finance the purchase through an SBA loan, typically $2,000 to $5,000 a month on a standard laundromat acquisition spread over 10 to 25 years. Once every one of those costs is subtracted, A well-run laundromat generally nets 20 to 35% as actual profit margin. On that $29,000 a month in revenue, you're realistically taking home somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000 a month once the loan, the rent, the water bill, and the attendant have all been paid. That's a real number, not the fantasy of $29,000 landing untouched in your account every month. The honest number, after the business has paid for the right to exist. There's a second path into this business that most people never consider, and it changes the math significantly. Instead of buying one laundromat outright, some owners start by financing an existing location through an SBA loan with as little as 20% down, then use the cash flow from that first location to fund a second one 2 or 3 years later. A single laundromat clearing $8,000 a month in profit isn't life-changing money on its own. 3 laundromats clearing that same margin, run under one attendant schedule and one shared maintenance contract, starts to look like a real small business, not a side hustle. This is why laundromats get compared so often to car washes and vending routes. None of them are exciting individually. All 3 become genuinely lucrative the moment you stop thinking one location and start thinking a route of locations, each one quietly profitable on its own, together adding up to something that can actually replace a full-time salary. Who's actually involved in getting you to that number? Your landlord sets the tone of your entire cost structure before you've washed a single sock, since a location near renters without in-unit laundry is worth paying more for than a cheap space nobody walks past. Your utility company becomes, quietly, your biggest silent partner, taking a bigger cut of your revenue than almost anyone else in this chain. And unlike a landlord, there's no negotiating a fixed rate with them. If you finance the purchase, your bank or SBA lender is effectively a partner too, one who gets paid whether business is good or bad that particular month. Your competition matters more than most first-time owners expect. A rival 2 blocks away undercutting you by 50 cents a cycle, or a new apartment complex up the street that suddenly gives every tenant an in-unit washer and dryer as an amenity, can quietly erode your customer base over a year without you noticing until the slow month becomes the new normal. And if you build out a wash and fold operation, your staff become a real part of the equation too, since the difference between a folding job customers trust with their good clothes and one they complain about online often comes down to a single reliable employee. Your city's permitting office belongs in this chain as well, and it's the one most first-time owners forget entirely until it costs them a month of delay. Plumbing permits, electrical inspections for the extra amperage commercial machines demand, and sometimes a separate water and sewer connection fee can add weeks to your opening timeline and thousands of dollars nobody budgeted for. A laundromat isn't just a retail lease with washers dropped in. It's closer, in terms of infrastructure, to opening a small restaurant, and it gets treated that way by every inspector who walks through the door before you're allowed to flip the sign to open. Here's the thing that wrecks most people who try this. It's not the machines. It's not even the rent. It's water and gas, quietly climbing every single year while your prices stay frozen because you're scared to raise them and lose customers to the place down the street. A machine breaking down is annoying but fixable, usually a same-week repair call and a few $100s. A slow, permanent creep in your utility bill is a business model getting eaten alive one billing cycle at a time, and most owners don't notice until their margin has already been cut in half. The second failure point is even more common, and it's almost always self-inflicted. Owners who buy a laundromat specifically because they were told it's passive, then genuinely never show up. Machines get vandalized. Coin mechanisms get jammed and stay broken for weeks because nobody's checking. Customers walk in, see 2 out-of-service washers with handwritten signs taped to them, and quietly start going somewhere else, permanently. A laundromat left completely unattended doesn't stay a laundromat for long. It becomes a slowly decaying room full of expensive machines nobody trusts, sitting on a lease that still has to be paid whether anyone walks through the door or not. There's a third failure point that shows up less often but hits harder when it does, and it's demographic, not mechanical. Laundromats are built on the assumption that a certain percentage of the neighborhood doesn't own a washer and dryer at home. That assumption can quietly disappear. A wave of new apartment construction that comes standard with in-unit laundry, a shift in the neighborhood toward higher-income renters who simply buy their own machines, or a rezoning that turns a renter-heavy block into single-family homes can each, on their own, erase the exact customer base a laundromat depends on to survive. This is why the real research before buying isn't just about today's foot traffic. It's about what's being built 2 streets over, and whether the renter percentage that makes this business work is trending up or quietly trending down. So is this actually worth pursuing? The honest answer is yes, but only if you go in clear-eyed about what kind of business this really is. It's not a lottery ticket that pays out while you sleep. It's a capital-heavy, utility-sensitive operation that rewards owners who check on it regularly, who track their water bill the way a restaurant owner tracks food cost line by line, and who add wash and fold or delivery service instead of just sitting on 20 machines and hoping foot traffic shows up on its own. The counterintuitive part most people miss going in is that the machines themselves are never the real business. The real business is the utility bill, the neighborhood's renter percentage, and how quickly you notice when something's broken. If you're seriously considering this, the first real move isn't buying equipment or calling a broker. It's spending an afternoon walking the neighborhood around a location you're eyeing, counting how many apartment buildings nearby don't have in-unit laundry, and asking the current owner of a nearby laundromat, if you can get them to talk honestly, what their actual water bill looks like every single month. That number will tell you more about whether this business works than any spreadsheet ever will. Talk to a Speed Queen or Dexter dealer in your area too, since most of them have sold and serviced machines in every laundromat within 20 miles of you, and they'll usually tell you, off the record, exactly which locations in town are thriving and which ones are quietly for sale because the owner finally got tired of the water bill. So the next time you drive past that laundromat with the lights on at midnight and nobody behind the counter, you'll see it differently. It's not free money quietly stacking up while the owner sleeps somewhere else. It's a building that never stops paying its water bill, run by someone who either shows up and manages the machines like a real business, checking on it the way you check on any asset that owes you money, or slowly watches the margin disappear one broken coin slot and one unnoticed rate increase at a time.